All right, Monday afternoon, the Krug Show meets the Cone Zone, and minicamp, mandatory minicamp, is 24 hours away. Let's go. Off and running on the Krug Show meets the Cone Zone. It is Monday. Hope everybody's having a great, 9th of June, 2:04 West Coast, 4 minutes after 5 back east. On my side, we're brought to you, of course, by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out, and they do run out. So get there early. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Get some brisket chili. As you can see over Grant's head, we're also brought to you by Mancini's Sleep World. Mancini's is a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. Best price guarantee, 365-night comfort guarantee, free next-day delivery. If you've been thinking about upgrading your bed, now is the time. Make sure you use the code KRUG10 at checkout. KRUG10, KRUEG10 at checkout. You'll save an additional 10%. Thanks to Mancini's for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, Grant's in the house. Grant, good to see you. We got mini camp tomorrow. I wasn't sure what we were going to talk about today until the Packers decided to cut Jair Alexander, their fantastic cornerback, and I still didn't really think of it as a major Niner topic, Grant, until I saw the odds. And sure enough, the odds are out, and the 49ers are plus 450 or 9-2, 4.5 to 1, if you will, to be Jair Alexander's next team, followed by the Dolphins at 5 to 1, the Eagles at 6 to 1. So if you're thinking block, that might be appropriate. The Rams are plus 750 at 13 to 2, 6.5 to 1. Buffalo at 8 to 1, Baltimore 10 to 1. Everybody else is a bigger long shot than that. What do you make of the Niners being the favorite next destination for Jair Alexander? Do you think they're going to be that aggressive and go after, a top-tier player right before training camp?
Well, the Bryce Huff trade, I think, kind of opened the floodgates for this, because before that trade, the Niners sort of had like a clear theme for the offseason. They weren't going to invest in older players. They wanted to get younger. They let every borderline injury-prone player go. And then they got Bryce Huff, who's $8 million. He could be a one-year rental. That's very much like a win-now move. And as long as the 49ers are making those, they have other issues on their team. I mean, Trey Brown and Upton Stout might be great, but we haven't seen anything from them yet. And you saw Renardo Green was kind of struggling at OTAs the last couple of weeks. I mean, why not bring in someone like Jair Alexander or Jalen Ramsey? I mean, Alexander isn't the only cornerback who's available. Jalen Ramsey seems to be pretty available in Miami as well. Get him for like a 6th-round pick, a 5th-round pick. Either one would be interesting and a big upgrade.
The only thing I've read about Ramsey is that Ramsey may switch to safety for his next team, but there's also other guys too. There's a Meek Robertson, who I guess the Niners
also. You get both of them.
Yeah, I mean, heck, I will say this: if you said, okay, you guys have been to minicamp, you've seen the OTAs, you know the roster, you know what they drafted, you know what they did after the draft. Where are the needs on this roster? Anybody can point to the line of scrimmage because you're never deep enough, right? You never have enough O linemen, you never have enough D linemen. But outside of that, I would probably point to the perimeter, wide receiver and corner. And the more I would think of it, the more I look at it, the more I would say it's probably more corner and then wide receiver. The 49ers have 7 corners that they signed in the last year. Trey Brown, Trey Avery, Chase Lucas, Jacob Robinson, Upton Stout, Dallas Flowers, Saron Neal, and Derek Canteen. So, I mean, that doesn't even include Darrell Luter, who's in now going into his 3rd or 4th year. So you got 7 new corners there, Grant. So, I mean, in a way, and none of those guys are big-time guys. I mean, Trey Brown, to me, doesn't look like much. Chase Lucas doesn't look like much. I got to be honest, even Upton Stout looks really, really tiny to me. He's like 5'8". He's very, very small. Saron Neal seems like just a special teamer, like not a coverage guy. And then you're looking at guys like Jacob Robinson, who's pretty small. I think he's like 175 pounds. Canteen, played at 3 different colleges. I don't know. I mean, they could use another corner. They could use Jair Alexander. And I personally, how much money do the Niners need to roll over into next year anyway? What's they've got $42 million of cap room. They have the second most cap room in the sport to the Patriots. Is there how much of a cap do you think they should carry over? How much do you think they want to carry over?
I mean, I think they have more than enough right now. They're about to be carrying over $46 million. It seems like they should be a little bit more aggressive, but I mean, if we say that the Niners are being cheap and aren't spending as much as they could, the Yorks would be like, whoa, 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 we're top 3 in spending this year, and we just gave so much money to Purdy and Warner and Kittle, and that's true. But it seems like if you really want to go all in, we saw what you did last year. You brought in all kind of vets last year, like Leonard Floyd and Malik Collins, because you thought last year was your year. And this year, it seems like, I don't know what the Niners think. For a while, it seemed like they didn't think it was their year. Then they trade for Bryce Huff. It's like, okay, yeah, you have one of the weakest schedules on paper. Why not make a run? I mean, the only team really holding you like in between you and a division title is the Rams with a quarterback who's 37. It seems like this would be a year to be aggressive. But how much money do the Yorks want to spend? They can always say we've spent so much, enough is enough. If we spend another $20 million this year, does that really increase our chances of winning a Super Bowl? Because they've tried that in the past and that didn't work.
I think maybe the question that you and I should ask before we even ask that is, what are the Niners in it? How do they view them? How do they view their Super Bowl candidacy this year? Do they think they've got a puncher's shot? Do they think they've got a hell of a shot? Do they think they're, a sleeper team for the Super Bowl? Do they, do they have, I'd love to know. I mean, they've got an easy schedule. They're only favored they're only underdogs in 2 games in the entire season. So I'd love to know. I mean, how do you think they view themselves, honestly? Forget what they'll say to us or say to their fans. How do you think they view themselves in the whole, Super Bowl mix this year?
I think they view themselves as having a real chance to be in the Super Bowl mix as long as Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams essentially stay healthy into the playoffs most of the year. And I think if that happens, the Niners definitely could be in the mix. But does any reasonable person think that there's like more than a 50% chance of that happening?
It's hard to say because
it's not just one, it's 2, right? It's both of them.
What's that?
It's not just one, it's both of them. McCaffrey and Trent Williams. Both got to be really good this year.
Yeah. Oh, and some receivers got to come of age. I mean, they will not go anywhere.
I don't expect much from Aiyuk this year, personally. I just don't.
No. I mean, why should we? He got hurt in week 7. It's a major injury. He's probably coming back in November. Even then, don't you think it's going to take 3-4 weeks to get his feet correct? I would say, just get that rhythm. I would say to expect anything from Aiyuk this year is probably not wise.
We saw Hufanga coming off a torn ACL. I mean, he wasn't the greatest version of himself. A lot of times it takes a player until that second year removed from the torn ACL to be even close to what they were before. I mean, Kyler Murray wasn't really running last year because he was right off an ACL.
Do you think the Niners have a wide receiver issue? I mean, how big, in the grand scheme of things, the O-line, the D-line, the secondary, the quarterback, all the different elements of this football team, where does wide receiver rank on the list of concerns? I bring this up just simply because Aiyuk's probably out until late in the year. Debo's no longer here. Pearsall finished really strong in those last 2 games, but before that, he wasn't very good. Demarcus Robinson is I thought looked great the other day at practice, but he's going to serve a 3-game suspension at the start of the year due to a violation of the substance abuse policy. Got charged with a DUI last November. He was driving over 100 miles an hour, so he's out for the first 3 games. Jennings had a bust-out year. There's no question, but can he replicate it? And then what can you expect to get out of Cowing or Tariq Owens or Jordan Watkins, a guy that I know you're high on, Isaiah Nayer, Isaiah Hodgins, Junior Bergen, Russell Gage Jr. Do Chris Conley retired after 10 seasons. Not that he's a great player, but he's moving on. They also have Malik Knowles. What do you think? Where is wide receiver? How much of a need is wide receiver in your mind?
The more I watch Jordan Watkins, the more I feel like it's not as much of a need because I like him. And I feel like bringing in someone like Amari Cooper or Keenan Allen to take snaps away from him might not be the best. Like, first of all, I really like Jawan Jennings. I think we all know what he is. And I think he's going to be able to replicate what he did last year. I think his issue has always been opportunity. You never feel like, man, they just went to Jawan too much in this game. Usually when they go to him, he comes through. He's limited, but I think he's good for what he does. And then after him, you have Pearsall, Watkins, and Cowing. 3 really explosive guys. If one of them steps up, you're okay. And I think we've seen good things from Pearsall. He needs to stay healthy. And Watkins, I mean, Purdy said it himself. Like, Purdy was trying to be nice and diplomatic about Cowing. He was like, he's at the front of every line. He really gets it. It's like, front of every line. Okay. Well, what about Watkins? He's like, oh, Watkins is balling. Watkins is really good. Like, that's the difference. Cowing's doing everything right. Watkins is catching passes and getting open and winning with the starters. You don't see that a lot from rookies on the 49ers. I mean, Aiyuk did it, but I don't even think Diva did it with the starters as a rookie. So got to be impressed. And when you go back and look at like Jordan Watkins' resume from college and Ricky Pearsall's resume from college and what they did at the combine, I mean, it's hard to see why one guy was a first round pick and one guy was a 4th round pick. It's very similar.
It's totally true. And not only that, look at the production. Watkins had the production. For the most part, Pearsall didn't. I mean, compared to Watkins. I was always amazed that Watkins was listed as an undrafted guy early in the draft process because he played in the SEC. He was incredibly productive. And you would have thought that he went to the combine and ran like in the 4.7s. No, he ran 4.37. So, and you heard Hankerson. He's still raw, but he has that it factor, that speed that we could use. I'm excited about having him here. He's taking a step in the right direction. I'm excited to see where he can go. And then you mentioned Purdy. Purdy was asked about Watkins. He's like, Jordan Watkins has been balling from day one. He says he's come in, he's done everything pretty right. He's on point. He says he's definitely a rookie that has popped out in front of everybody.
I mean, they never said that about Jacob Cowing, no offense, but like that's usually – like Jacob Cowing is on like the typical rookie track. It takes time, a lot of times 3 years for wide receivers, if they ever make it. Like balling since day one, who does that? Especially late 4th round picks. So it's only been two weeks. Maybe he comes back for training camp and is awful, but I don't think so. So far, so not only is he fast, but he's like strong and he can catch. Like Danny Gray was just fast. Danny Gray couldn't catch. Danny Gray wasn't strong. Danny Gray was a 3rd round pick. Since when do players like this fall to the 4th round? It's incredible.
It really is. What a great get. What a great get for the Niners. I mean, that was an unbelievable draft choice. There was a report, Jordan Schultz, NFL Insider, reported Thursday that Terry McLaurin has become frustrated with the lack of progress towards a new contract with the Commanders, and McLaurin's entering the final year of a 3-year, $68 million deal. He's been one of the best receivers in the league. He's racked up 1,000 yards receiving in each of the last 5 years. He had 13 touchdowns last year. That beat his previous career high by 6. So him and Jaden Daniels were really cooking last year. And they brought in a number 2 guy, Debo. But as soon as I saw that McLaurin's unhappy, and from what I could read from the Schultz piece, it sounds like the Commanders are concerned that he's going to ask for a trade. Immediately I thought Aiyuk to the Commanders for McLaurin. What do you think? What do you think, Grant? I mean, what do you make of Aiyuk? Forget McLaurin for a second because we don't really know his situation, but I don't know that we really know Aiyuk's situation. Hankerson's making it sound like he's the assistant wide receiver coach and everything's hunky-dory, but Malik Mustafa keeps showing up to practice despite being hurt, and Aiyuk keeps not showing up despite being hurt. I don't know. Do you believe the Hankerson, Aiyuk's, is thrilled and he's a coach and this and that, and he's painting a smiley face? Or, I don't know. I get the sense that Aiyuk is unhappy and would like to move. And I don't know. That maybe I'm maybe I'm creating that out of my own mind there. Because Aiyuk doesn't talk a whole lot. What's your sense of where Aiyuk's head's at?
I get the same impression you do. And again, he's very cryptic, so I'm not saying like I have a definitive sense, but he's not acting like a guy who wants to be on the 49ers or frankly even expects to be on the 49ers. It almost seems like he's given the two birds salute on the way out, but he's not on the way out yet, or he's not out yet. And so like as far as what Leonard Hankerson said, what is he supposed to say? Yeah, man, he's a malcontent. He doesn't really want to be on the team. He's all about himself. Like he's going to say, I'm a great wide receiver coach and I got this guy bought in. And that's how good I mean, of course he's going to say that. Like, I just can't get through to him. He doesn't listen to me. I've tried everything. Like he's not going to say that. I'm not saying that's the case, but I would expect Leonard Hankerson to say, nothing else. So I don't put a ton of stock into that. He's just doing his job and saying what he's supposed to say. But we can all judge Brandon Aiyuk's, cryptic statements on our own. And again, he doesn't seem like a guy who's super thrilled to be on the 49ers.
Well, I read your story. Did he really unfollow the Niners? And is that a recent
Well, he doesn't
development?
follow them. So he unfollowed them at some point, and maybe he unfollowed them last year, but he doesn't follow the Niners on Instagram. I don't know why.
So that could be nothing. But the fact that Brock Purdy, his quarterback, just signed a record-setting deal, or at least record-setting for Brock. I mean, it's obviously a huge moment in Brock's career. No tweet, no social media post at all. In fact, but T.J. Hushmanzada, who was worked with Aiyuk, ripped the deal and said Purdy wasn't worth it.
Yep.
I don't know. And then Purdy went in the offseason. He didn't visit Aiyuk. I mean, a lot of people would say, "Oh, Krug, stop stirring the pot." But he went to Nashville and he sat there at a Predators game wearing a Nashville Predators jersey with George.
He was out there for a week with George. He brought his wife. The wives were hanging out. I mean, they went above and beyond to create a relationship. That's the kind of stuff Steve Young used to do with Jerry Rice and Brent Jones back in the day.
Not only that, I mean, I had read that Purdy had been working out with Cowing and Pearsall, but somebody said to me, "Oh, Aiyuk was there too." I don't know if he was or wasn't, but
I don't know.
But what do you think? I mean, is the idea of moving Aiyuk crazy talk, or do you think it's viable?
I think it's something they wanted to do last year. I think it's something they wanted to do earlier this offseason, and I think it's something they regret not doing, and I think it's something they would love to do. If the Washington Commanders would give them Terry McLaurin for Brandon Aiyuk, the Niners would thank God. They would thank the heavens, because I think they're dying for someone to take this contract off their hands right now. It's not that he's a terrible player, but it is a terrible contract, and I don't think they could get Terry McLaurin for him. Like, They can't get a 6th round pick for this contract right now. They're stuck with it. It's their fault.
But, they do have an extra pick from Debo. They do have an extra pick. They could
sweeten the deal.
They could sweeten the deal. The question is, would they? I mean, here's how the way I'm looking at it.
Okay.
If you just said to certain Niner fans, "Hey, Lynch, Shanahan, are they in the hot seat?" I think even guys like myself would joke about that. No, they're not on the hot seat. But they did win 6 games. They have a really, really easy schedule.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't go 10-plus wins and make the playoffs, I think they are absolutely on the hot seat.
Yeah.
And so I think this season is kind of pivotal. So would you, I would throw a pick if I were John Lynch or Kyle Shanahan with Aiyuk. Why? Because how my team does this year kind of matters about my future. And I don't know. I mean, other people would say, no, it doesn't matter. These guys are here. I think they're going to be here next year. They're going to be here in 2026, regardless of 2025. But 2026 is going to come with a boatload of heat if they don't make the playoffs. And they're going to be absolutely up against it. They're going to have to produce big time in 2026 if they miss the playoffs. So that's why I think
2026 is Lynch's final year under contract.
Right. I mean, I think don't you? I mean, I would say this year is a pivotal year for the regime.
Yep.
I don't think
especially
I don't think it's crazy. I don't think that's crazy.
The ownership just like threw their lot in with Brock Purdy. It's done. They just put all the money in escrow. They believe in Brock. That's who they're invested in. And so now it's not like, is Brock the right quarterback for John and Kyle? To me, are John and Kyle the right infrastructure for Brock? So they got to show. I mean, if they go 6-11 again this year, those two are going to be held responsible, not the quarterback that they just got signed. I'm guessing, unless I'm misreading it.
It's interesting too, because the fans don't. I mean, look at this poll. I'm going to share the screen here. This is a SB Nation. Put it, for what it's worth, SB Nation. The question was, who has the most to prove for the 49ers this season? Kyle Shanahan, overwhelmingly, over half of the fan base has Kyle Shanahan. 52% of the people voting say Kyle Shanahan. Lynch is at 9%, which is really giving him a free pass, considering how many picks they've missed. Purdy's at 30%. I guess we're just in a world where the quarterback and the head coach just are kind of, top of people's mind.
Usually.
Saleh's
absolutely.
At 9%.
It's just interesting because a couple of years ago, Niner fans were just sold on Kyle. Kyle's great. It's all Jimmy's fault. Now they love Brock, and Kyle is the one who has to answer for these problems.
It kind of shows that, at least in the eyes of the fans, we don't know that the fans are, in lockstep with Jed, or Jed's thinking is in lockstep with them. But if you just ask the fans say it's the pressure's on Kyle. Heck, I could come up with all kinds of guys that the pressure's on. I think there's tons of pressure on Jake Moody. I think there's pressure on guys like Juwan Jennings to get a contract. There's pressure on Ricky Pearsall to step up with the other receivers out. I mean, there's pressure on Mikael Williams, who didn't produce a whole lot at Georgia, to kind of show that he's worthy of being the highest first-round draft choice on the entire team for the most part. So there's pressure on a number of guys this year, for sure, but the most on Shanahan. So with that being said, if they could throw a pick and if you have Aiyuk, you may not have Aiyuk until December, and he probably isn't going to do much. Where if you made this trade, I don't know why the Commanders would do this. You'd have to really throw them an extra pick, or they would really have to want to be long-term with Daniels and Aiyuk together, and they're willing to, take a half step back for half a year, or maybe you'd have to throw him something in addition to Aiyuk. But I think if Shanahan if this deal were out there and Shanahan could make it, I think he'd make it, because I think he understands that McLaurin might be better than Aiyuk, especially post-injury Aiyuk, and McLaurin also enables you to walk away. If you wanted to walk away from the entire commitment, you could trade Aiyuk for McLaurin and then just not extend McLaurin. Now you're out from underneath the Aiyuk, and he's in. You can hit reset if you want to do that, or you could sign McLaurin, and I think McLaurin would probably command less than Aiyuk. He's older. I don't know about that for sure. What do you think? Do you think Aiyuk? Or do you think McLaurin's extension would be smaller than Aiyuk's?
Yeah, absolutely. He's 30 years old. I mean, he's about to be. I think it's really the issue is would the Commanders want to do it, and the reason they might be interested, despite the fact that Aiyuk has this huge contract and he has this awful injury, is one, he's best friends with the quarterback, so there's chemistry there. They've played together, and also their general manager is Adam Peters. We don't know how he feels about Brandon Aiyuk. Maybe he loves Brandon Aiyuk. Maybe he's Brandon Aiyuk's biggest fan. But as you were saying with Kyle and the urgency he has to perform this season, if you look at the rhythm of his business with the Niners, he got a 6-year deal in 2017. He got an extension following the 2019 season. So in 2020, he got his first extension 3 years later. Then in 2023, right before that run to the Super Bowl, he got extension number 2. So it seems like if things are going well, he gets an extension every 3 years. That means he would get an extension in 2026 at some point next year. I think that's probably contingent on what he does this year. They're not going to give him an extension if he's coming off back-to-back losing seasons. There's no fucking way. He has to win 10 games and go to the playoffs to get that extension.
Yeah. And some of these picks have to start hitting. Some of these hand-picked offensive players, I think Jordan Watkins and Brock Purdy and these running backs are kind of essential. I mean, it's not just that the Niners missed under Lynch and Shanahan. They missed on offensive players that Kyle advocated that Lynch trade up to get. That's the problem. Joe Williams, C.J. Beathard, Jalen Hurd,
Dante Pettis.
Dante Pettis. They traded up for every one of those offensive players
Davis
at
Price,
Kyle's
Trey Sermon.
request. I got to think it's at Kyle's request. So
Yeah.
I think he kind of needs a couple hits in the draft. Jordan. A lot of people banged on Kyle after the draft, saying, "Oh, you reached for Jordan Watkins." Okay, but now Jordan Watkins looks pretty good, and people are like, "Hey, Kyle picked Jordan Watkins." Yeah, he did. So we're, and I kind of think it might be time for him to hit. He hit on Kittle, but man, he's missed on an awful lot of offensive guys along the way. I think he could really, use a big time hit and maybe Watkins.
And one more thing too, like he's been the de facto GM. I mean, I think the reason that John Lynch is so low on this list is that at 9 years in, I think most Niner fans realize that John Lynch does a lot for the franchise, but he's not necessarily he's not ever overruling Kyle. I mean, he's gathering consensus, asking people what they think, but he's not a big decision maker. I don't think so. If the issue is picking players and personnel selection, then maybe you got to let Lynch go eventually and like hire an actual general manager who has say over Kyle Shanahan. And we don't know that Kyle Shanahan would ever like actually agree to that type of a work relationship. He might just freaking retire. He probably has $200 million or close to it.
Austin says McLaurin isn't going anywhere. Going from a team that just made the NFC Championship to a team that just won 6 games. He is if Adam Peters trades him. This is not a free agent situation. This is a trade situation. We got this one, Ninja Dom. Commanders are not trading McLaurin for an injured Aiyuk. Most likely, but you know what? They have their own struggles, and who knows if they can't get on the same page. We don't know what his personality's like and how uncomfortable he's making it for them. Okay. Who has, if it's not Kyle, if Kyle isn't the guy that enters this year with the most pressure, who do you have? Who would you nominate? Who's under the gun coming into this year? I mean, you can make an argument for several guys, but who do you think, who's got a pressure-packed 2025 headed their way?
Brock Purdy. I mean, fair or foul, like this is the perception in the NFL. When you get this contract, everyone cheers you on. And everyone says you deserve it and you earned it and this is the market. And then there's truth to it and then you get the contract. But then, I mean, week 1, if you don't win, if you don't put up good numbers, you lose to Sam Darnold, everyone turns on you immediately. I mean, we saw it with Brandon Aiyuk last year. Niner fans, football fans across the globe wanted him to get paid. And they saw him as such a victim from the 49ers. When he finally got paid, everyone was happy. And then couple bad games and everyone's looking at him like a freaking bum. So I'm not saying like people are going to look at Purdy like that, but this is high stakes when you're by far the highest paid player on your team. You got to be the best player on your team. He's the 7th highest paid player in the league. I think he can rise to the occasion. I think he's going to have a good season, but there's going to be so much more scrutiny on him than there was in the past. Because even in the past, if he had like one bad game or one bad pick, be like, well, what do you want from him? He's making $900,000. Be freaking grateful. It's not like that anymore.
Yeah, no, he's, the increased salary, there's increased expectations. Bottom line, it's just the way it is. You can be mad about it all you want, but that's just the way it is. His drop rate, Brock Purdy's drop rate nearly doubled last year. I don't know if you saw this. He had 9 drops in 2023 of his passes. Last year, he had 19. 2% drop rate goes to 4.2%. So, I mean, if you look at it, I mean,
Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, how much is that? How much? What do you? 19
it wasn't
drops
George
is
Kittle's
not
fault.
It's not ideal, but I mean, I'm looking at 2018. The Niners had 27. 2019, 28. 2020, they had 34 drops. 2021, 26, 2022, 37. So, man, they had tons of drops in the Jimmy and Trey era. And then 9 and 23 for Purdy, but then last year, 19, which 19 is not a huge number compared to those other numbers, but it is compared to 9. What happened last year? Why more drops last year, do you think?
Because Debo played like crap and Brandon Aiyuk wasn't much better. I mean, those were the 2 guys dropping passes. It wasn't Ricky.
Ronnie Bell.
It wasn't George. It wasn't Ronnie Bell. It wasn't Jawan. I mean, Jawan's freaking shorthanded. I think whatever was going on with Aiyuk last year, he was not particularly great before he got injured. And Debo was just so bad. So I think the fact that, what do they talk about with Jordan Watkins? They're like, he's not just fast, but he's great hands. Yeah, because that was a huge issue for you guys last year. So I think between Pearsall, Watkins, and Jennings and Kittle. Those are three very sure-handed receivers. Should be an upgrade. Just moving on from Debo might be the biggest thing, the best thing that happened to the Niners offense this offseason.
Is there anything that you've seen thus far in the offseason program that makes you excited about this upcoming year? Like what have you seen that makes you go, man, I can't wait to see more of that in this offseason? Not necessarily last year, but in this offseason.
I mean, it's the defense. I really want to see what Salah's vision is because I take him very seriously as a coach. I mean, I think he's a top 5 defensive coordinator in the league. He has head coach experience. He's evolved and changed. Like, I want to know what the vision is. What are his third down pressure packages going to look like? How is he going to use Fred Warner on third down? Who's going to be his secret weapon when he's blitzing? Is it going to be Upton Stout? Is it going to be what's the vision? Because even with all these rookies and guys who are unproven, I would expect this defense to be pretty good this season. I think it's going to be really well coached, and it's going to be a big mystery. It could be better than the offense. The offense is going to be kind of the same as last season. You're just hoping it stays healthy. This is like the big mystery element of the 49ers this year, and I don't know. I'm curious to see what it is.
I think I think most people would be with you and say, yeah, it's the defense. For me, though, I think it's a major change from Debo on Aiyuk and being 29th or 30th or whatever the Niners were in wide receiver separation on passing plays to, Watkins in year 1, Cowing in year 2, Garendo in year 2. And to me, it just seems like the Niners have potential to have guys running in the clear. I mean, Garendo, I'm not sure what to make about Garendo. I mean, he's got great ball skills, and he's super fast, and he's kind of big. So it's like, what are they going to do? Are they going to use him at fullback? Are they going to dump it to him in the flat? Is he going to play running back? Are they going to flex him out? You got to use Garendo. Cowing, to me, looks so much better than last year. I just noticed a lot more of the back of his jersey. And then Watkins is just, very explosive. So to me, it just seems like you took away 2 slowish receivers that didn't get separation. You added 3 weapons that really do have a lot of speed. I mean, you didn't really add Garendo and Cowing, but you kind of did because they didn't play very much. So I don't know. I mean, I think there's a chance that this thing could look quite a bit different. Like Brock maybe could throw to guys that are actually in the clear, or maybe throw to guys that are 3 or 4 yards, away from the defender, something we rarely saw. So I'm kind of hoping that it looks a whole lot different, and I'm thinking the added speed might make it look different.
Yeah, let's talk about that separation number for a minute. The concept of separation in general, because it's interesting. I think you're going to get more separation in general when you're facing zone than when you're facing man. The whole concept of man is to reduce the separation and reduce the windows. So last year, the Niners got more man-to-man coverage because Christian McCaffrey wasn't out there. When McCaffrey's out there, a lot of teams are worried about covering a man-to-man because they feel like they don't have a linebacker or a safety who could do it. So part of that is who your personnel is and what you're facing. The other part is what you're calling. For whatever reason, last year, Brock Purdy was leading the league in time that he held the ball before throwing and depth of target down the field. That's terrible. And that's just bad design. If you were to throw more quick hitters, more screens, there would be so much more separation because there's 10 yards of separation on a screen. On the past 20 yards down the field, there's not going to be any separation. So I think there are ways that Kyle Shanahan could evolve and improve to make Brock Purdy's life easier. We used to see him do it all the time for Jimmy Garoppolo. He made Jimmy Garoppolo look way better than he was. And I don't think he did Brock many favors last year, Kyle Shanahan.
Well, Brock, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much I would put on Shanahan versus Brock and this and that because, they're so linked together. But I kind of felt like since the Kansas City game, whatever week that was, week 6, 7, 8. Yeah, week 7. From week 7 on, I didn't think Brock Purdy looked very good. I thought he seemed sped up. He took chances that he didn't need to take. He didn't show any real patience. wasn't really willing to take what the defense gave him. It was
Wasn't
like
really
he
thrown to the running backs anymore.
didn't really operate under play action under center very much. Was in the gun, didn't throw it, didn't do a lot of play action, didn't throw it underneath. It was weird. I mean, and they didn't have a ton of speed, but he really wanted to throw the ball down the field.
Yeah.
And then I didn't see any separation down the field at all. So I didn't get it. To me, and then I just felt like he held the ball too long because he's trying to let his guys free themselves open down the field. But it also, I just kind of felt like he was like hunting the big play, the big gainer at the expense of keep it moving, man. The old saying, Grant, you've heard it. You can't go broke making a profit. You can't go broke if you keep throwing a 7-yard out and a 6-yard this, and you just keep moving the chains. That's going to be a good thing. And it's like he took shots. He took chances. He put the ball in harm's way. He took that blind throw to JJ against the Rams that ended the season was
so bad,
reprehensible. And when I asked Shanahan about it, he backed him. He's like, no, he wasn't too aggressive there. He wasn't too aggressive there. It was first down. All of the defenders were taking away the deep quadrant of the field. All of the underneath routes were open with the defender back behind the receivers. He had 3 guys open underneath, and he drove it blindly with a rusher in his face to JJ, who he never saw.
What Kyle was essentially saying was that, like, that was the right read and that, like, JJ got bumped off his route, but I can't knock Brock because technically he did what I wanted him to do, which is why I go back to Kyle sort of being culpable for what happened last year. Like, there weren't enough layups schemed into the offense for Brock. And we've seen Kyle scheme up, quote unquote, layups for Jimmy. He did it all the time. He did it for Brock in the past. And I think he needs to be able to do that this year. Like, we saw Ben Johnson do it for Jared Goff all the time. Like, Jared Goff is not that good, but he had a lot of really easy throws to incredible playmakers that boosted his stats. I think that's what every quarterback needs. And Brock didn't have enough of it last year. I don't know if the Niners were trying to prove that he was some type of elite quarterback or worthy of whatever, but those days need to be over. They get back to helping him. And there's so many ways you can do it. More play action, more screens, less straight drop back passing, because you don't have the offensive line or the playbook to really pull off that kind of an offense.
Let's hit a couple supers and then we'll hit little prize picks. Marcus Ralph says, who's a bigger diva when it comes to interviews and media interactions, Crabtree or Aiyuk? That's interesting.
Crabtree.
I don't know that either guy was really loved the media, right? I mean, what do you?
One time, Crabtree answered questions while he was answering. Like, I was asking him a question. He stood up and he leaned over to tie his shoes, and he did the whole thing talking to his shoelaces. Brandon's never been that antisocial. I think they're both a little maybe shy, and it comes across as diva behavior, but that's where I think it comes from, just a shyness.
I think Crabtree probably had a bigger ego than Aiyuk. Aiyuk seems to be kind of like he's late to the diva party. You know what I mean? It's like he's a wide receiver and he should be called a diva wide receiver, but it's like he wasn't a diva wide receiver. He was a hard hat, blue collar wide receiver who became more of a
junior college and had to take the hard route here and barely made it as a first round pick. Whereas Crabtree, I mean, we all knew who he was in college. He was famous in college. When he came to the Niners, he held out for more money because he thought he should have been drafted higher. It's like, who do you think you are? And he never was that great. He was good, but not that great. He was like Juwan Jennings.
Yeah. Less reliable.
You know what I mean? Like, he was good.
He was less reliable than JJ.
Yeah.
Maybe more talented, but less reliable.
Not a lot faster. He didn't play that much faster than JJ.
No, definitely did not.
No.
And he was supposed to be a great player. No, he's not. He was not nearly as tough as JJ. I mean, JJ's tougher, and JJ. The thing about Juwan Jennings is all Niner fans know it. It could be Super Bowl 60 if the Niners are in it. It could be 4th down. The season could be on the line, and it could be like 4th and 7. And if Brock Purdy went to Juwan Jennings, there's not a single 49er fan that would question that.
Yeah, but that's what he did in the Super Bowl twice. He did it at the end of the fourth quarter. He did it in the overtime, and it didn't work out. And Aiyuk was open, and I still feel like Aiyuk hasn't forgiven Jawan or Kyle or Brock or God or whatever. But I think Brandon will never get over that. Those two plays.
Makes you wonder. It does make you wonder also. I think Brock was asked a couple questions about Brandon's negotiations along the way, and I think he deferred in a way that may have annoyed Aiyuk, because I think he deferred by saying, "Hey, I have faith that John and Kyle will get either Aiyuk signed or get a wide receiver in here that can do the job." And I think I don't want to say that he feels like Brock undercut him, but maybe he doesn't feel fully supported, and maybe that's why he didn't fully
because didn't Burrow like basically come out and be like, "What are the Bengals doing? Why haven't we signed Jamar Chase? Like, what are we thinking?" Like, that's kind of what you would hope. And they're like, they've been friends since freaking college. Maybe Jaden Daniels would do something like that for Brandon Aiyuk if they were teammates. But Brock, is a little bit of a company man. He was the last pick.
Marcus Ralph says, "Can you guys also recall how Crabtree started? He had the broken foot, right? Didn't he have the foot injury that prevented him from a long time?"
Well, he's saying like Crabtree and Cap were like best of friends early on, but then
I got
then they kind of fell out. Yeah. Anyway,
who knows about that? I couldn't really speak to that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Once Cap, okay. Can you guys also recall how Crabtree falling out with Cap once he started playing bad? I kind of see the same thing happening with Brock and
they seem like they were really close at first when Brock first became the starter. I remember Brandon being like, "Nah, this is the right guy for us. This guy's the truth." And it seemed like ever since Brock got married and didn't invite Brandon, and Brandon got married and didn't invite Brock, it's like undeniable that something is frosty between these two dudes.
It does seem that way. I mean, I don't have any, we neither of us, I mean, I shouldn't speak for you, but I don't have any sources. It just, it appears there's something. I don't know.
Something.
I'm not sure what, but it appears that there's something. Eric Darby in the house says, "Hey, fellas, any intel on the new rivalry uniforms?" I have not heard anything about the rivalry unis. Have you?
I have not. No. I hope they don't change too much.
Yeah.
No gold jerseys, no black jerseys. If you want to bring back something, bring back like the mid 2000s jerseys. Those were kind of cool, like the T.O. Jeff Garcia jerseys.
No color changes, no logo switches. I'll tell you what,
What's
I wouldn't
up with
mind.
the Giants wearing purple, Larry? What is that?
It's awful, is what it is. It's embarrassing.
For the kids like that.
It's like I feel like I'm watching a Barney, the old kids show Barney.
Yeah.
No, I mean, do not change your colors. Come on, don't. But the one I wouldn't mind seeing is the Niners with the same helmet, but just like the metallic version of the gold. I think the metallic helmet is kind of cool. I kind of like those Oregon helmets that are super shiny. So I wouldn't mind like a shiny Oregon version of the Niner helmet. That would not be bad. I like that. That wouldn't be bad.
Open-minded.
All right, let's hit some wagering here. Let's see when we take this.
All right, we got the NBA Finals Game 2 Wednesday. Why don't we go back to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? He's pretty consistent. They put him at 34.5 points, more or less. What do you think?
Ooh, so that's a fat number, man. 35 is what he needs. I'll go less. I'll go less than 34.5.
He could get in foul trouble. Like anything could happen. I don't like that. It's too much could go wrong there.
It's on the road too. It's he's gonna have 35 on the road. I don't know. I would say under.
What about Tyrese Halliburton? 75.5 points at home. Not a huge score, but 17.5 isn't a lot.
17. I like that. Give me Halliburton to have a big. Yeah, give me more than 17.5 for Halliburton. I like that.
Okay, I like that too. What about Pascal Siakam? His number 2 option, 19.5 points.
Ooh. Why does it say
he's 17? Done a good job against them.
Why does it say 17.5, 19.5, 23.5? Which one's
because it's like they give out different payouts. Like if you want to do 17.5, you can only pick the more, and I think it gives you like slightly better. Pays up to 3 times. Oh, I don't know.
I like Siakam to go for 20. I like Siakam to go for 20. I think Siakam is one of their more dependable guys. He to me, he's a better player than he was when the Warriors faced him in the finals with Toronto.
He's a hell of a player. It's too bad the Warriors don't have a guy like him.
Oh, that's the guy they should have got. They should have got Siakam, but what can you say?
That's the guy they want. Like, I think Steve Kerr would love Kuminga to be Siakam, but Kuminga doesn't want to be Siakam. Kuminga wants to be who? Kobe?
Kuminga, I think Kuminga, that's a good question. I think Kuminga wants to be, who exactly does he want to be?
Michael Jordan?
Could see him like Jaylen Brown. I think he wants to be a guy who can attack the rim, but can have the license to shoot threes. And just on this team, Steph.
And has the license to be a bit of a black hole when he wants to, that's his game.
He's just, I just think that he's too inconsistent for Steph and Draymond and Jimmy, and I think they've probably expressed it to Kerr. And it's kind of weak because they're kind of hiding behind Kerr.
Agree.
And Steph would never own it, and neither would Draymond, and neither would Butler. None of them, and Kerr wouldn't want them to because it would make him look like he's not the coach.
Right.
But don't tell me Steve Kerr on his own without Steph, Draymond, or Butler is just sitting Jonathan Kuminga and has nothing to do with Steph. I don't buy that at all. I think Steph said, this guy doesn't play well with us, sit him down.
I completely agree with you. And Steph has a squeaky clean image, like he's just, the most wholesome guy, and he wouldn't do stuff like that. But I think he probably did stuff like that. And Kerr made it seem like, well, it's about Jimmy. He just doesn't fit well with Jimmy. No, bullshit. It's about Steph. Interesting. Miles Turner, last one, 14 even, more or less.
I'm going less. Miles Turner sometimes goes huge periods without shooting the basketball, so I'm gonna go less with him. That's just a hunch because that's kind of a low number, but I don't see a big number coming.
All right, well, that's the lineup that Larry and I are going with. We're going to flex it, submit it, download the app yourself, use promo code COHN, play $5 and win 50 instantly on your first play. All right, thanks, Larry.
Nice. Good luck to everybody who's participating, and prize picks. Check them out. Okay. Bryce Huff, couple last ones before we call it quits. Bryce Huff, what did you think of Bryce Huff? Because it was weird watching Bryce Huff at this last practice. He just doesn't look like a defensive end. He just doesn't. Now, I don't know. It's weird because he wasn't comfortable as an outside linebacker. I think most people that would look at his body type would say, oh, yeah, you know what? If he's good as a defensive end, he could be even better as an outside linebacker. It's probably what the Eagles were thinking when they added him, and it just didn't work out. And now he's back with the Niners, and we saw him last week at practice. Before I give my thoughts, what did you think?
Kind of short, kind of stocky, kind of short arms. Like sometimes when you see a player, like when you saw D Ford in person or Javon Kinlaw, you see him and you're like, oh, I can totally see why this person was a first round pick. You look like a premium athlete, whether you are or not. When I looked at Huff, maybe it was the number, the 47. I'm like, yeah, I can totally see why you went undrafted. Like if someone said that was an undrafted rookie, I was like, yeah, that'd be an former undrafted free agent. He just doesn't look like a guy who ever would have been picked in round one. He just doesn't have the length. This is kind of awkward, but maybe it works. I mean, it's only worked that 1 year, but I could see why the Eagles were like, nope, not for us. I don't know what we thought we were getting, but this isn't it.
It's interesting. Fangio actually commented about Huff the other day. He says, I think one thing is he was getting better, and then when he hurt his hand, he tried to play with it for a couple weeks. It wasn't going good because he was reluctant to use his hand. Then Fangio said then when they operated on his hand, he had to play with a big cast on his hand, which basically rendered his hand useless and then rendered his arm useless because you can't use your hand. That really had an effect on him. He said, I think he'll do fine in San Francisco. When I asked Kasarik about it, he said, the step sequencing from a wide 9 guy with his hand in the dirt compared to a 3-4 outside linebacker who's, in a 2-point stance is quite a bit different. And he thinks that he'll do really well with the 49ers. I will say this, though. It's interesting. The first thought I had was, man, he looks small. Okay, he looks small. But then when Chris I was standing right there when he was working with him. When he lined him up as a wide nine rusher, first of all, he put all put a 4-point stance, both hands in the dirt. It's not a 3-point stance. He's going with the 4-point stance. He feels more comfortable like in that sprinter stance. But the one thing I did notice is that every single time he got off the ball, he took 3 really, really efficient fast steps, and Chris yelled, "Great get off. Great get off." So I think that is what they really signed up for, is he's got a great get off. He's not a guy that's going to beat you with a bunch of counters inside. He's more of he's going to dip and rip and dip that shoulder and flatten to the quarterback. So I think he's all about get off, and I think Chris likes what he sees get off wise. But like, if this guy doesn't get off the ball, I mean, I could see him just getting stonewalled by tackles because he's just not very big. So if he doesn't get off the ball, he's not going to have success.
But it seems like he not only has like the physical traits and talent to do it, but he has the technique and the skill as well. Like, it seems like this wide nine thing that Chris Kasarik is coaching and teaching, not that many players have been exposed to it in college or on their previous team, and there's a learning curve because, like you said, there's a step sequence. They want you to do something a specific way, and with Bryce Huff, he's already been taught, he's already been coached. So Mike Williams will be learning from him, and in terms of just like the step sequencing, I'm sure Bryce Huff is nearly as proficient or just as proficient as Nick Bosa. So that makes things really easy on the 49ers. They could have drafted James Pierce Jr. or Jalen Walker, but those guys wouldn't know how to do or wouldn't be as comfortable doing what Huff does with the 4-point stance and his exact steps coming out of the stance. That's something that Kasarik doesn't have to coach or teach. I'm sure he's grateful.
Let's hit a couple before we get out of here. The special teams, Brant Boyer, God, they've invested an awful lot of capital, whether it be free agents or whatever, in special teams. They're all about special teams. They're all about Boyer. They let him make their 7th round pick. Why? It makes no sense to me. I mean, to me, if there was the only guy to me that looked disappointing during OTAs, I thought, was Bergen, who was juggling punts while Jordan Watkins was catching him cleanly. It wouldn't be a big deal, except that's all that Bergen does is catch punts. So if you don't catch punts cleanly, what would you say you do here? How is the Niners special teams units going to look? How improved do you think they are under Boyer?
I think they have a much better coordinator than last year. And I think most importantly, they have more like dedicated special teams players. I think in the past, the Niners had starters and young players who were hopefully developing into starters, but they didn't have those 4 or 5 guys who aren't there to develop into, anyone special. They're just there to play special teams. Harbaugh always had guys like that on his team. Blake Costanzo, Bubba Ventrone, CJ Spillman, Kasim Osgood, the guys who aren't going to do anything for your offense and defense, but they are some of the best special teams players in the league. And if you want to be good at that phase of the game, you have to have a segment of your roster dedicated to it. And I think that's what they're trying to do this year. They like Saran Neal or Luke Gifford. Like, those are just special teams guys. And if the Niners really want to, I don't know that Junior Bergen's going to make it, but that's another example of a guy who's just a special teams guy. So at least they're taking it more seriously.
Running back wise, last year CMC was limited, right? He barely played. He only had 50 carries. He only had 15 catches in 4 games. But if you go back to 2023, CMC had 393 touches. Somewhere in between is probably the right number of touches. Is this going to be another year where CMC calls the shots, or do you think Shanahan calls the shots and we may see some Garendo? We may see some of the other backs, the Kiners, the Jordan Jameses. I mean, what do you think? Or is this going to be CMC running the show or Kyle running the show?
It should be Kyle running the show. It seems to me that Christian's gotten paid. So there's no reason for him to be fighting to stay on the field. I think he was doing that so he could get his guaranteed money and get his last extension, but he got it. And so now he needs to think about longevity. And it seemed like last year he was pretty cautious He wasn't fighting to get back on the field week 4 and 5. He went to Germany. He wanted to make sure everything was okay. So that seems to be the right way to go moving forward. If he tries to approach 2025 like it's 2022 or 2023, he'll probably get hurt by October, and that'll be that. So he and the Niners have to prioritize getting him through a very long season at his age. That's job one.
Storyline wise, what's the bigger concern to you? The wide receiver group and how they hold on early with no Demarcus Robinson, no Debo, no Aiyuk early on, or the secondary where you got 10 new faces, 7 new corners, all kinds of new, guys kind of trying to introduce themselves to one another. What's the out of those two, which are more important to look good this week? Wide receivers?
I think the secondary is scary. I mean, Diamador Lenore is a hell of a player, but beyond him, what do you got? Bernardo Green is unproven and been shaky in the offseason program so far. Malik Mustafa looked good, but he's torn his ACL twice now, and he won't be there for week 1 most likely. So what is that secondary going to be? Is that secondary going to cost them week 1? Are they going to make Sam Darnold look like Sam Darnold looked against them last year? I mean, that's the issue to me. And they got to figure that out right now, get a real close look at Bernardo Green, give him one more chance in these next 2 days. And if it's barbecue chicken, then maybe call up Jair Alexander or Jalen Ramsey.
Well, for the 3rd year in a row, they better not screw it up in camp. I mean, 2 years ago, they kept Oliver and cut Deshaun Jameson. Last year, they kept Isaac Yiadom and cut Samuel Womack. This year, I mean, if they wind up, keeping Trey Brown and Trey Avery and Saron Neal because they gave them $1 million of Jed's money and wind up cutting in the process Jacob Robinson, Derek Canteen, and Darrell Luter, and watch those guys go elsewhere and perform, I'm going to lose it. I mean, these guys, seriously, I get it. You spent some of Jed's money. Jed's got to be understanding enough to understand that sometimes you're going to spend money, small amounts of money in free agency, like the Eagles did. They spent a lot on Bryce Huff, and they moved off a year later. And you know what? Sometimes it's like, I don't want to see them go for Saron Neal because they gave him $700,000 or something, or $2.5 million, and cut, Jacob Robinson or Derek Canteen or Darrell Luter after they played really well, just simply because they don't have an investment in that player. That's that's the one thing. Sometimes the Niners get really small time with the way they handle Jed's money. Like, any expenditure of Jed's money needs to find its way to the active roster. How about this? Put the best players on the roster, screw Jed's money.
Yeah, he'll appreciate you putting the best players on the field. I mean, you threw away all those picks and money on Trey Lance, and it worked out with Brock Purdy, and Jed didn't seem to get upset. So this seems to be the best way to go about it, unless they're getting pressure behind the scenes that we don't understand about.
Last one. What's in your mind? What's the top storyline heading into these 2 days of minicamp? And maybe even beyond. What's the top story heading into the minicamp, mandatory minicamp? What's going to be the top story heading into the training camp?
I feel like the top story has sort of organically become Christian McCaffrey watch, because people have different perceptions of what he looks like.
Yeah.
And people want to know, is he back? And it's hard to say, because that's kind of a loaded question. Like, back, like offensive player of the year back, or better than last year? So I think we're always going to have to tell fans what our perception of Christian was on that day. I don't think Brock's a huge storyline in minicamp. I think Jordan Watkins is becoming a gigantic storyline. Anytime I do a video on him, it goes crazy. So I think Niner fans want to know about him. Those are two.
I'll give you one. I kind of think, and maybe, who knows, because it's just minicamp, but I kind of think Austin Pleasance looks like a starter more so than Ben Bartch. And what does that mean? Because Pleasance moved great at 3:30. When I talked to Firster, he's like, I can't believe he's moving this well. So if they can't believe that he's moving this well, is it possible that maybe Austin Pleasance is the starter at right tackle and McKivitz is playing left guard? Or is it possible that Austin Pleasance is the right tackle and McKivitz is playing center for Brendel? I'm eager to see if they put Pleasance on the field because, man, he was moving exceptionally well at 330. And they could use a 330-pound tackle that moves that well. That's for sure.
I mean, they might want to give him a shot at left guard because Aaron Banks was about that big. Laken Tomlinson was about that big. They usually have a bigger left guard who can combo block with Trent Williams, and they can use that side of the offensive line to get some like movement at the point of attack because the right side is usually smaller, sleeker, better for outside zone plays. So why not give him a shot? It's not like Ben Barch is that physically imposing. Although, maybe Barch is better, but it seems like probably both of them are going to play at some point this season.
Which
Now
linebacker do you like?
Left tackle.
Oh, I know. Burford's going to play tackle. Which linebacker do you think wins the job next to Fred?
Probably initially D Winters. It'll be his job to lose. And if he struggles, if he gets hurt, then they'll eventually give it to Nick Martin. It seems like Nick Martin is the real deal. But D Winters is doing a really good job too. And I don't know that they'll necessarily like they may have to they may keep Winters in that role until he gets hurt, kind of like what they did with Jimmy Garoppolo back when he was the quarterback. It's like, okay, we love Brock, but we're going to let this happen organically.
That's going to do it for us. Quick hour. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Grant and I are tomorrow are both in Santa Clara for the next couple days. Looking forward to that. Gonna have a chance to check out the mandatory mini camp. Grant, what do you got cooking? Anything you want to promote on your way out the door here? Good stream. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle. Thanks to Mancini's. Thanks to Prize Picks. Anything you want to throw in at the end here?
God bless.
On that note, God bless everybody. Have a great day. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of.